It was a cold, silent night in the small town of Oak Ridge. Snowflakes were falling slowly from the dark sky. Most people were already inside their warm homes. Only a few streetlights were still on, giving the town a quiet, sleepy look. Ethan, a young man in his late 20s, was walking back home after helping fix the church's heater. He wasn't rich. He worked as a mechanic and often helped the church for free. That night, as he stepped out of the back door of the church, he heard something strange, a soft sound, like someone crying. He stopped. The sound came again. It wasn't loud, but it wasn't a normal sound either. It was soft and broken, like someone in pain. Ethan looked around. The night was empty. Then he heard it again. He followed the sound to the back of the church, near the old broken bench. There, behind the building and covered in snow, was someone or something. He stepped closer and froze. It was a girl. She was lying on the ground, her arms wrapped around her body, shaking badly. Her clothes were almost nothing, just thin, torn pieces of strange cloth. Her skin was pale but had a soft glowing shine, and there were marks on her arms that looked like glowing, lines blue and silver. She wasn't human. Ethan's heart pounded. He looked around quickly. No one was there. He took off his coat and quickly wrapped it around her. She didn't speak. Her lips moved, but no sound came. Her eyes opened slightly. They were large, shining, and purple, unlike anything he had ever seen. Hey, it's okay, Ethan whispered, trying to stay calm. I won't hurt you. She looked at him with fear and confusion. Her body was ice cold. She didn't seem to understand his words, but when he tried to lift her gently, she didn't resist. She was too weak. Ethan carried her to his old pickup truck, laid her in the back seat, and turned on the heater full blast. She coughed once. He noticed small glowing dust falling from her hands when she moved. He didn't ask questions. He didn't take pictures. He didn't call anyone. Something told him that if he called the police or anyone else, she would disappear forever. He drove carefully toward his small cabin on the edge of town. The snow was falling harder now. On the way, he kept looking at her through the mirror. She was still shivering. Her hands gripped the coat tightly, and her eyes watched everything like a scared animal. When they reached the cabin, he carried her inside. The fire was already burning in the fireplace. He placed her on the couch, covered her with 2 blankets, and brought a warm bowl of soup. Can you eat? He asked. She looked at the bowl, then at him. Slowly she reached out and touched it, but her fingers glowed softly as they made contact with the spoon. She pulled back quickly, afraid. It's just food, Ethan said gently. He took a spoonful himself and ate it in front of her. After watching him, she slowly took the bowl. Her hands were still shaking, but she sipped it. Her eyes widened as the warmth entered her body. Ethan smiled. See? Not bad, right? She didn't reply, but a tiny, tired smile came to her face. For a moment, she looked less afraid. Ethan sat down across the room, not too close, trying not to scare her. He had so many questions. Who was she? Where did she come from? Why was she lying half naked behind a church? And most of all, what was she? But he said nothing. She looked too weak, too broken. He knew this wasn't the time. After some minutes, she fell asleep on the couch. The firelight danced across her face. Her glowing skin was dim now, as if her body had finally started to relax. Ethan looked at her and whispered to himself, "What have I just brought into my life?" Outside, in the dark sky above Oak Ridge, something else moved, something not human. Silent and cold, a silver shape hovered far above the clouds, watching. Someone was looking for her. And they were getting closer. Ethan didn't sleep that night. He sat in the old wooden chair near the fireplace, watching the strange girl lying on his couch. The fire crackled softly, but inside his heart, everything felt loud racing thoughts, growing questions, and the fear of what might happen next. She was still asleep. Her breathing was soft but steady now. The glowing lines on her skin had faded, but her body still looked weak. He couldn't stop looking at her, those strange silver marks, her glowing skin, her alien beauty. Who was she? What was she running from? And why did she end up behind a church in the middle of nowhere? Just before sunrise, she woke up. Her eyes opened slowly, scanning the room like she didn't recognize anything. Then, suddenly, she sat up fast, her body shaking. She looked at Ethan with wide, terrified eyes. Hey, it's okay. Ethan said softly, raising his hands in peace. You're safe. No one will hurt you here. But she didn't speak. Her lips moved, trying to form words, but it wasn't English. The sounds were soft, broken, like whispers from another world. It wasn't just a different language, it was something unearthly. Ethan stepped back slowly. It's okay. I don't understand, but I'll try to help. Her eyes locked onto his. That's when it happened. For a moment, something passed between them. Not words, but something else. Her eyes were pleading, full of fear, but also trust. She didn't understand his language, but she understood one thing: he wasn't trying to hurt her. Then she reached out. Her fingers brushed Ethan's hand, and a spark passed through him. Not painful, not hot, but strange. Like static, but deeper. He gasped and pulled back. What was that? She looked down, confused too. Then she touched her own chest, right where the glowing mark was. Ethan stepped toward her again and gently pointed to her chest. You hurt? What is this? He asked, pointing to the mark. She looked at the mark, then at him, and slowly shook her head. He grabbed a notebook and tried drawing a simple shape, a star, a question mark, a stick figure. She tilted her head, curious. Then she grabbed the pencil from his hand and drew something. Not a word, not a symbol, but a planet, surrounded by stars. And above it a crown. Ethan blinked. What? Are you royalty? She paused, then nodded. Slowly. His heart skipped. He didn't know whether to laugh or panic. A nearly naked girl behind a church was actually an alien princess? He didn't get a chance to say more. Suddenly, the old radio on his shelf, broken for years, turned on by itself. Static crackled. Then came a voice. A deep, alien voice. Speaking in her language, her face turned white. She stood up quickly, shaking, and pressed her hands over her ears. The radio glowed blue. Ethan ran to it, trying to unplug it, but it wasn't even connected. Then the voice switched to English, just a single sentence. Return the lost flame or Earth will burn. Ethan froze. She looked at him, terrified. Her lips trembled. She took a step back, then pointed to the radio, then the sky, then drew a line across her throat. She was trying to say something dangerous was coming. Are they looking for you? Ethan asked. She nodded. You don't want to go back? She shook her head fast. Her body trembled. Then she dropped to her knees and placed her hands together, begging. She pointed at him, then at herself, and then toward the window, where the stars were still visible. She didn't speak, but her eyes begged. Please. In single quotes, let them take me. Ethan stared at her, heart pounding. Outside, the early sun started to rise. The world looked calm, but he now knew the truth. Something big was coming. And the girl he found behind the church wasn't just some lost creature. She was something powerful, something wanted, and maybe something dangerous. But Ethan had already made his choice. He was going to protect her. No matter what. The next night, the wind howled outside the cabin. Snow hit the windows hard. But Ethan wasn't thinking about the storm outside. He was staring at the radio. It was still glowing blue. He had removed the batteries, unplugged it, even taken it apart, but it kept glowing. It was quiet now, no more strange voices. But the damage had already been done. He turned to the girl still sitting quietly near the fire. She hadn't spoken a single human word since she arrived, but she had started watching him with calm, gentle eyes. She now wore one of Ethan's large flannel shirts. It hung loosely over her thin body, but at least she was warm. Ethan walked over with a notebook again. He sat beside her and flipped the page to the planet and crown drawing she had made earlier. He pointed to it. "You are from there?" She nodded once. Then she took the pencil and started drawing again. This time, the image was clearer. A tower, a large, dark spaceship above it, and inside the tower a figure, alone. The same glowing mark as hers on the figure's chest. Ethan frowned. "You were locked up?" She nodded again. He pointed to the ship. "They took you." She quickly shook her head. Then she drew flames around the tower and arrows pointing away from it, like an escape. "You ran away?" Ethan whispered. She looked into his eyes, her own filled with pain, and nodded. Then she drew one final symbol, a word. Not English. Strange curves and lines. She touched it and looked at him. "Lost? Flame?" Ethan guessed. She nodded again. A tear slipped from her eye. Suddenly, a loud bang shook the windows. Ethan jumped up. What was that? He ran to the window but saw nothing. Only trees, snow, and darkness. He grabbed his shotgun. He didn't like using it, but something about this whole situation was becoming more dangerous with every passing hour. Outside, a faint humming sound echoed in the trees. It wasn't wind. It wasn't human. Ethan turned back to her. "You need to stay hidden." She didn't move. Her body was frozen with fear. Then the radio lit up again. This time, it showed a hologram, a moving 3D image above the table. Ethan stepped back, shocked. It was a face. Gray skin, sharp jaw, eyes like black glass. Alien. Cold. The hologram spoke in her language first, then again in English. "The lost flame is here. Her power is not hers to keep. Return her, or suffer." The image vanished. The girl stood slowly. She walked over to the radio, placed both hands on it, and the blue light died instantly. She turned to Ethan. Then finally. She spoke one word. In English. "Run." Ethan stared at her, mouth open. "You can speak?" She held her head like it hurt and whispered again. "Run." "They come." "No," Ethan said, stepping toward her. "We're not running. I won't leave you." She looked at him. Her lips trembled. Then she raised her hand and a faint red light appeared in her palm. It flickered like a weak flame. But it was beautiful, alive. "This, inside me," she said slowly. "Old power." Ethan couldn't believe it. She wasn't just a refugee. She wasn't just an escaped prisoner. She carried power. Something that scared those alien voices. Something ancient. Something royal. "Who are you really?" Ethan asked. She pointed to herself. "Alira," then pointed to the sky. "They call me Flame of the Crown." Ethan took a deep breath. "Alira, why come here? Why Earth?" She looked down. "Safe, far, but now not safe." Suddenly, they heard a sound outside. A low humming like a machine hovering in the air. Then a flash of light passed by the window. Ethan loaded his shotgun. Alira grabbed his arm, her eyes wide. "No, you die." "Then what do we do?" She walked to the center of the room. Her hands glowed again. Then she closed her eyes, and the cabin walls shook. A force field, a soft blue glow wrapped around the cabin. Ethan couldn't breathe. What did you just do?" Alira looked weak but serious. "Hide," she whispered. "Alira, if they find you, will they destroy Earth?" She nodded. "Yes." Ethan looked at her, his hands shaking. Then he said something he never thought he would say in his life. "Then let's make sure they don't find you." The storm outside was gone, but the danger had only begun. The next morning, Ethan stepped out of the cabin with tired eyes. Snow had stopped falling. The forest looked calm, but he knew better now. Something in the sky was watching. Something not human. He returned inside, locking the door behind him. Alira was sitting on the floor near the fire, holding a small mirror in her hand, his mirror. She kept turning it, staring into her own reflection with a strange sadness. Ethan sat across from her. "You okay?" She didn't answer. Instead, she pulled up her sleeve and pointed at her arm. That glowing mark was brighter now. But this time, it was changing. It had started to move. Ethan leaned forward. "Is that alive?" Alira nodded slowly. Then she said, "It grows." "What is it?" he asked, voice shaking. She looked at him, then placed her hand on her chest. "It is my key, my curse, my blood." Ethan frowned. "Blood?" She reached for his notebook again and drew something new. A long ship, a glowing core inside it. Then, a figure, her standing in front of the ship. Lines from her skin connected to the ship's core. She pointed to herself and said one word, "Control." Then she pointed to the ship and whispered, "Awaken." Ethan's heart dropped. "You control that thing? You're connected to it?" She nodded. "Born for it." He leaned back, trying to make sense of it all. The mark on her skin wasn't just decoration. It was technology, living technology, coded deep inside her body. She wasn't just royalty, she was engineered to control something big, something powerful, a ship, a weapon. "Or maybe both, Alira," he asked. "Is that ship coming here?" She didn't reply. Instead, she stood up and walked to the broken radio again. She touched it, and for the first time a star map appeared. Mid-air. Ethan gasped. It was Earth in the center. Around it, thousands of small dots. Most were gray, but one, far away, was glowing red. Alira pointed to it. "That is home." Then her hand moved to a much closer dot, nearly touching Earth. "Ship is here." Ethan's chest tightened. "What, here? Right now?" She nodded. "It sleeps," she said, "waiting for me." Ethan stood in shock. "You mean there's an alien ship floating over Earth, and it's waiting for you to wake it up?" She looked him in the eyes. "Yes." Suddenly, a knock. Ethan and Alira both froze. Not a loud knock, but slow, measured knock. Knock, knock. They weren't expecting anyone. Ethan grabbed his shotgun, but Alira held his arm and shook her head. She whispered, "No, not them. Human. How do you know?" She pointed to her mark. "It tells me." Ethan walked to the door carefully, opened it just a crack, and saw a man in black suit, sunglasses, cold expression. "Mr. Ethan Carter?" The man asked calmly. "Who's asking?" "Government," the man said. "We detected unusual electromagnetic activity from this area." "May we come in?" Ethan smiled nervously. "Sorry, not a good time. We saw the burst of alien code from your cabin last night," the man said flatly. "Something ancient, something royal. We know what's inside. Open the door." Ethan closed the door instantly and locked it. He turned to Alira. "They know." She stepped back, breathing hard. The mark on her arm glowed brighter red now, not blue. The ship above Earth must have sensed her fear, or her blood. Then her eyes turned silver, and her body began to shake. "Alira!" Ethan ran to her, but she fell to her knees. Glowing lines spread across her skin, moving fast. Her voice shook as she whispered, "They will take me." Ethan held her. "No, they won't. Wake the sky," she said softly. "But I'd die if I do." He held her face. There's got to be another way, but deep inside he knew. The mark wasn't just a key. It was a trigger. If she used it, something massive would awaken, but it would also burn her from the inside out. That was the secret under her skin. Not just royal blood. Not just power, but sacrifice. And outside, the man in black placed his hand to his ear. "She's in there," he said. "Prepare containment. If she wakes the ship, Earth won't survive." The forest was too quiet, too still. Ethan knew something was wrong. He stood at the window, staring into the thick line of trees outside his cabin. No birds, no wind. Not even the sound of falling snow. Just silence. Inside, Alira sat on the floor, her arms wrapped around her knees. Her eyes stared at nothing, as if she felt something no one else could. The glowing mark on her shoulder had turned orange brighter than ever before. "They come," she whispered. Ethan turned to her. "The men from yesterday?" She shook her head slowly. "No, not men, not Earth." His blood ran cold. "Aliens?" She nodded. Then she looked up at him with wide, frightened eyes. "Hunters." An hour passed. Maybe less. That's when the air changed. The snow outside began to melt, but only in a straight line, like a path was being carved through the forest. The trees began to shake. And then Ethan heard it, a low hum, not from the sky, from the ground. He rushed outside with his flashlight, stepping into the cold. He didn't see anything at first. But then a shimmer in the air. A tall figure stepped forward. Out of nothing, not a man, not like Alira. Something metallic, tall, and wrapped in armor that bent light around it. It didn't walk, it glided, like it wasn't touching the ground. Its eyes were glowing red slits. Its fingers were long, sharp, and clicking together as it scanned the area. Ethan ducked behind a tree. His heart pounded. The alien lifted a small device, and a strange hologram showed up. Alira's face. It hissed. And then 3 more of them appeared behind it. Ethan slipped back toward the cabin, barely breathing. He didn't know what kind of weapons these things had, but if they wanted Alira, they weren't here to talk. Inside the cabin, Alira was already on her feet, glowing brightly. The mark on her skin was pulsing like a warning light. "They found me," she said in a whisper. Ethan grabbed her hand. "We're not giving you to them." She looked at him with pain in her eyes. "If I stay, you die." "Then let's not." "Stay." He rushed to the small trapdoor under his bed. Years ago, his grandfather had built a secret escape tunnel in case of war or danger. It led through the back hill into the forest. He pulled the door open. "Get in." Alira paused. "You come?" "I'm not leaving you," Ethan said. They crawled through the dark tunnel, their only light the glow from Alira's skin. Behind them, the cabin shook. Loud crashes echoed. The hunters had broken in. Ethan's heart thumped faster. He had never been more afraid in his life. But beside him, Alira began to whisper in her own language, a slow chant, soft and haunting. "What are you doing?" he asked. She looked at him. "Calling for help." "From who?" She didn't answer, but then he heard it, a response, a rumble in the distance, like something waking up. When they reached the forest clearing, Ethan stopped. Above the clouds, a light broke through. A massive shadow moved behind the clouds, silent but terrifying. Alira pointed up. "Ship, that's your ship?" Ethan asked. She nodded. "Can you control it?" "I can try." She raised her hands, glowing like fire. A beam of red light shot into the sky. Behind them, the hunters emerged from the trees, 4 of them, now fully visible. One raised its arm, aiming a strange weapon at Alira. Ethan stepped in front of her. "No." The alien fired. Ethan braced for pain, but nothing hit. Wall of blue energy appeared in front of him. Alira had shielded him. She screamed, and the shield exploded outward, knocking the hunters off their feet. Her legs gave out. She collapsed in Ethan's arms, shaking, her mark burning bright red now. "They can't have me," she whispered. "Promise." Ethan held her close. "They won't." Above them, the ship in the sky began to open like a flower made of metal. A beam of light reached down. The hunters hissed and scrambled back into the trees. Alira looked at Ethan, barely conscious. Time to end this. And with her last strength, she rose. Her feet left the ground. She floated into the beam of light, glowing like a second sun. ***. The sky cracked open like glass. Ethan shielded his eyes. as the giant alien ship revealed itself above the trees, its black surface glowing with lines of red light. It made no sound, but the air itself seemed to shake. Alira floated inside the beam, her body glowing brighter than ever. Her eyes were closed, her arms spread. She looked like she was sleeping, but something inside her was awakening. Then Ethan heard it. Not with his ears, but inside his mind, a voice. Her voice. Ethan, go. I can't stop it if it starts. He shouted up. What do you mean? What's starting? No answer, only silence. Then the hunters screamed. Behind him, in the forest, the 4 alien hunters dropped to their knees. They clutched their heads like something was breaking their minds. And from above, the ship released a deep thunder-like pulse of energy. Ethan fell to one knee, his chest shaking from the pressure. This wasn't a ship. It was something else. It was alive. Inside the beam, Alira's memories rushed back. She had once been a princess, a daughter of a great empire, but she had also been made, built, designed. Her body carried a code, a living weapon, one her people once feared, one they tried to hide. But when war broke out across the stars, her creators tried to turn her into a bomb, one that would wipe out enemy planets in seconds. But she refused. She escaped. And now, Earth was caught in the storm she was never meant to bring. Ethan stood up slowly, struggling to breathe under the weight of the energy pouring from the ship. He shouted into the sky, Alira, come back down. You don't have to do this. But her body had changed. Glowing patterns now spread across her face and arms. Her hair floated like it was underwater. Her eyes opened, burning white with power. She wasn't speaking, but the air around her was vibrating with something ancient. Suddenly, giant symbols appeared in the sky, circles, codes, alien language Ethan couldn't read. The ship was responding to her DNA, her presence. The trees shook violently. The snow melted. The hunters crawled backward, trying to escape, but it was too late. A huge beam burst from the bottom of the ship and hit the forest floor, carving a massive crater. No fire, no explosion, just silence. The ground simply vanished. Ethan screamed, Stop! You'll destroy everything. Then, Alira fell. The beam stopped, the light vanished, and she dropped from the sky like a falling star. Ethan ran with all his strength and caught her just before she hit the ground. Her body was burning hot. Her skin glowed bright, then began to fade. Her breathing was shallow. Alira, stay with me, he cried. Her lips trembled. She opened her eyes just barely. I stopped it, she whispered. I stopped the weapon. I locked it. You did good, Ethan whispered. You saved everyone, she smiled softly. You believed me when no one would. Tears fell from his eyes. I still do. But then her head tilted back. Her body went limp. The glow disappeared. No, no, no. Ethan held her tighter. Alira, wake up. He listened. No breathing. Only silence. He shook her gently. Nothing. He looked up at the ship. It was dimming, shutting down. He screamed at it. Bring her back. You hear me? Bring her back. But the ship just hovered, then slowly rose into the clouds, disappearing behind the sky. Ethan fell to the ground, holding her lifeless body. She wasn't a bomb. She was a shield. She gave her life to stop a war that Earth didn't even know was coming. And just when he thought all hope was gone, a light flickered. Soft, faint, coming from the mark on her chest. Then, her fingers twitched. Her lips moved. Ethan. His heart nearly stopped. Alira? Her eyes opened slowly, weak but alive. I broke the weapon, she whispered. But I'm not done yet. The snow had stopped, the clouds were gone, and in the middle of the quiet forest clearing, a human man held an alien girl who had once been called a weapon, a flame, a threat. Now she was just alive. Barely. Ethan stared down at her as she blinked. Slowly in his arms, Her skin no longer glowed brightly. The red energy lines had faded to soft silver. Her lips were cracked. Her voice was faint, but she was breathing. "Alira," he whispered, "you made it." She gave a weak smile. "Not yet." "What do you mean?" She looked at the sky. Above them, the alien ship had paused, still hovering, silent, watching. And then, without warning, it knelt, not like a person, but the ship lowered, gently, toward the earth, bowing in slow motion. Its red lights dimmed. The metal structure rippled like waves. It was showing respect. Not to Ethan, but to her. To Alira. Ethan stood slowly, helping her up. She could barely walk, but she leaned against him for support. The hunters, once so dangerous, stood frozen at the tree line, their heads bowed. Their weapons dropped. They didn't move. They didn't speak. One of them, taller than the rest, stepped forward. He removed his helmet. Ethan saw his face, gray skin, golden eyes marked with symbols that glowed just slightly in the light. The hunter knelt on one knee and lowered his head. "Lost flame," he said in a deep voice. "You have awakened the core but spared this world. We await your command." Ethan stared in shock. "They serve you now?" Alira nodded. "They always did, but they feared me. Now they understand." Ethan looked at her. "You're not just a key or a weapon, you're their queen." She looked down. "I never wanted power," she whispered. "I only wanted to be free." The hunter looked up. "You are free, High One, and we shall follow you. Or vanish, if you so wish." Ethan stepped forward. "Then here this earth is under her protection. You come in peace, or you don't come at all." The hunter blinked, surprised by the human's courage. Then slowly he nodded. "We will not harm this world." That night, the forest glowed. The great ship released a warm blue light that healed the damaged trees and melted the scorched ground. The hunters vanished into it, one by one, returning to the stars. Alira stood near the beam of light, the wind brushing her silver-white hair. Ethan stood beside her, hands in his jacket pockets. "You really going with them?" he asked quietly. She looked up at the ship, then at him. "No." His heart skipped. "No?" She took his hand gently. "They offered me the throne," she said, "to lead them, to return to my home star. But I said no." He swallowed. "Why?" she smiled. "Because I already found home." Weeks passed. Alira recovered slowly. Her power faded to a quiet glow that only returned when needed. She wore earth clothes, now simple jeans and warm coats. She still spoke little, but each day her English grew better. She liked music. She loved the stars. And she never let go of the small silver necklace Ethan gave her. Tiny flame carved from metal. They lived quietly in the cabin together. People still asked about the strange lights in the sky that night. The government sent drones. News stations tried to explain it as space weather. But only Ethan knew the truth. Earth had been seconds from destruction, and it was saved not by armies, not by weapons, but by a girl who refused to be used. One night, they stood together on the hill behind the cabin. Alira looked at the stars, and her hand softly glowed. "They're watching," she said. "Your people?" Ethan asked. She nodded. "Waiting. For what?" She looked at him and said, "To see what peace looks like." He smiled and squeezed her hand. Then she leaned her head on his shoulder, and high above them, among the stars, the old empire watched, but they did not command. They did not attack. They knelt, because she had risen,